Welcome to another episode of Champagne Dreams. I'm your host, Stephanie Walters, here with my co host.
Daryl Dwayne.
And we are excited because now each month on Champagne Dreams, we're going to bring in a special guest who can kind of add to the topic of conversation. We want to just bring a little more flavor to it. And today we have Tasha Turnbull of T2 Fitness Foundation and T2 Fitness Studio. What's up, Tasha?
Hey, y'all. Thank y'all so much for having me. I feel honored and honored. So thank you.
Oh, that was such like the politically correct answer. Tasha is our homegirl. So
Well, we're glad to have you because I think me and Steph talk so often about the conversations we have in our friend circle. So it only makes sense to tap in our friends to be a part of the conversation, on a larger scale. Plus, just having those extra tidbits of insight, right? I don't want us to be talking in a vacuum. So to be able to like actually have an added voice that could, play devil's advocate or bring a little more perspective, I think that's healthy, not only for us, but also for our viewers who are watching. So we thank you for being here.
Absolutely. And today's the first episode we touched on like friendship and the growth and evolution over the years. And today we're going to be talking about our self-awareness and self-worth and like the value that we add to spaces. And I know we all have like our own experiences with that. I know a lot of us have been doing the work on ourselves, whether it's through therapy or through self-diagnosis, whatever we want to call it. But it's something that we've, I think, had a lot of conversations with over the last, like, especially last year, I would say with all of us in thinking about our evolution and where we are now. And so kind of just want to start kicking it off. Like, are y'all still in therapy? Because I am.
I'm there. I'm still in therapy. I just don't go as often as I used to. So now it's more like a once a month check-in as opposed like every other week, because my pockets also was like, bro, like, this is great, but you're not needed as often as you may think. So and I'm still there, but just maybe more like once a month. Every now and then I might skip a month, but it's still like once a month.
Yeah, same. How about you, Tasha?
Yeah, same. So I was going like maybe once a month or every 3 weeks. And then we both decided like, hey, you can kind of like, dial it back. And like last week, I was like, yeah, it's time to dial in. So February 9th is our the next
She's like,
February 9th at 2 p.m. To be exact.
That's a great segue though, because speaking of dialing in, that self-awareness component, it matters. And it's really important to know when it's time to dial back in, right? Like I think sometimes we're so used to just being people of color. And I think for you all, maybe even more so than me as a Black man, but maybe not, but maybe it's the same. Like, but as Black men and women, you're told be strong, be, hold it down for the family, hold it down for your friend circle. And so you're always used to being a strong one. So you may not always be fully aware of when you need to dial back in. But to have that self-awareness, Tasha, like I like nothing but respect, because I'm not even gonna hold you. Like these last few weeks being back at work for me, like after this little holiday break, it's been like, whew, it's a lot. So I might have to dial back in a little more frequently just to sort of just to get perspective and gain some perspective. But no, dialing in, top of the list, like knowing when to dial in and knowing when to dial out. That's checklist number one. Or I should say checking on the list. Yeah.
Well, I think you don't realize too, and it's so funny you mentioned like being back at work. And I think like what we all had a good like 2 weeks off. I know Tasha, you really didn't have no time off because you're a personal trainer. But when you think about, and I think too, especially the older you get, like just all the different personalities that you're coming in contact with every day, and how when you're starting to grow and evolve, and you're like, okay, like you're having to really check yourself. So what would y'all say are some of the moments that you really feel like when dealing with other people now that you have to check yourself and be like, all right, I need to have a second before I either like pop off or I'm going to lose my.
Yeah. Workflow for me, but T2, I don't want to, I'm want you to chime in. I'll wait.
I was going to say,
I should deal with like 800 people a day.
Yeah. I have to, because there's so many different projects and people affiliated with those projects, and a number of those people are reaching out to me for questions, advice, or to get through the next piece. So I've noticed that I am not, for some things, not hesitant to immediately respond, even if they are calling me. I have to be in a place to respond appropriately and kind of give attention and not be like, yeah, what? You know what I mean? Like trying to actually engage with them. Because if I picked up the phone right now, I'm gonna just be like, oh, okay. You know, and the thing is, like, given things that people might call me about, they might be really serious things to these people, their health, personal situations that are going on, and I just can't, because you're not contacting me for emergencies. Like, you know, I'm not a doctor, I'm not on the operating
right.
So if you're contacting me, even though in your brain it might be really severe, it's not severe for me right now because I'm trying to take care of myself and the other things. So I need to be at a point to respond appropriately. So I don't rush to respond back, even people, because you know, people be texting all the time or emailing. Even calls is real big, but they not real big to me anymore. Like they're not, because it's just too many different things I'm responsible for. So I'm trying to check myself and help myself while I'm helping other people. And that's the best way so for all of us to continue to move, to progress, you know?
But you know what you'll do too, though, sometimes? Sasha, I love it, because Sasha be like, ciao. Look, she'll start emailing, ciao. And she'll screenshot me something that somebody sent. She'll be like, what in the ham sandwich? I was like, what she'll say. Do I need to say so? What we'll do, I'll like dictate a text her, like, okay, this is what you should say. And she'll be like, okay. I'm gonna tweak this part. And so like sometimes you gotta know when to call in reinforcements. Because your response might not be the best response.
I think at some point or another, we've all leaned on each other for that, because I can be too blunt or too curt and it may come across insensitive. So I know I have to dial in sometimes to T2 or Steph, you know, for me to
and then I can be too nice.
So it's like finding that happy medium, which we talk about, you know, setting healthy boundaries often on our show. And also we talk about, you know, having accountability partners. And I do feel like you all both really make really great accountability partners, because and the things that I lack, you all sort of, you know, you make up for. And I think when you look at your friend circle, and we're talking about having friends that help you get, you know, to the next emotion, like to help you cross over those emotional stages, it's important that you have people in your circle to be able to pour, as you would say, Stephanie, pour into you in aspects or in ways that you necessarily may not be able to do for yourself. So, you know, I respect it. Like, you know, when T2 hit me up or when Steph you hit me up, I respect that you value my opinion, and vice versa. Like when I reach out to y'all and y'all like, no, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to help you write it. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I like the fact that y'all are just like there. I think that's a value, and that I don't take for granted. And I think that, you know, all those who are watching, you should look at your friend circle and just see who's adding value and who's not, and maybe reassess.
Yeah, but I think you also, go ahead, Tosh.
I was going to say, sometimes it's good because you'll be so deep into something, or you'll be so immersed, like you can't objectively look at things. Your emotions might be really high with something like, no, they did me wrong. You know what I mean? And you like, wait a minute, let's, you know, just put some parameters about it. Let's look at this from another angle. And I think it's good for someone else to step in, a friend who, one, knows your character, who understands you and can help you, can say things to you in a way that that you can understand and that you respect, and know where they can give another perspective that is of value, not somebody just saying something to you like, oh, you need blah, 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 blah. Like, no. And sometimes I think that's very helpful, because you might just be looking at things personally, or you might be just looking at things too bluntly, like Daryl said, and like, you need to put a little bit more, you need to put a little, you know, a little soft,
a little more texture on this,
some compassion on that, or some softness to that. Agreed.
I also think too, you don't realize it though until you start to like heal stuff within yourself, right? Like things don't click with you, or you don't resonate as well. Like, oh no, I just got back from Morocco, right? And so you're spending, 12, 13, 14 hours with the same people in a day, and you're having like these deep conversations with people in other cultures. And then even the people that you're actually like with, right? The people I travel with, my other videographers. When you say like the level of conversations that we were having in terms of like when the intellectual value that it adds to you, the emotional value that it adds to you, like you can't accept and like listen and receive certain things until you've also like healed stuff within yourself. And so I guess for you guys, like when was that moment when you knew like, oh, I'm like really doing the work on myself, like I'm really self-aware of like how I'm operating in situations or what's triggering me or who is triggering me? Like when was that like aha moment for you? Because I know when it was like for me.
I said, when that moment
They're like, it's still happening every day.
I was like, when it happened, the aha moment for me was probably coming out of the pandemic in the mix of like everything that was going on. I had just started therapy. I was really trying to get my life together. And the moment happened, and I could tell that it happened because old me was very, I could be petty. Old me. And so I realized the shift that taking place when I realized that the desire to be petty or the desire to reciprocate back the behavior or the energy that was given to me in the same format that it was given to me back was no longer there. The desire to want to like be just as ugly or be just as nasty as that person was to me. And then I was like, you know what, that's growth. Because I know for me, old me would have been very much like, well, that's how you serving it up. And I would have been very adamant.
Like, I can whip it up better.
Exactly. And I realized like that's not a healthy, like that's not how healthy adults should be operating. That's a level of toxicity.
It's very childish.
That it not only am I get back, am I hurting them, right? I'm coming from a hurt place because I was hurt by whatever they did to me. But then in my get back, I'm hurting them, causing more irreparable damage, right? And to add a layer, I'm allowing that energy to seep into my spirit of who I am and totally shift how I'm moving in my life, which means that they've already won. And I don't want to, the whole goal of, recognizing that something isn't for you isn't so that you fall victim to somebody's trash and you become trash and you become trash because you try to, you're trying to reciprocate back the behavior, but you want to be above it. And so I want to be in my best Michelle Obama mode and, go high even when everybody else is going low, even though it's a struggle. But there is value in that because you feel, you realize that, you know what, they're still in that place and I'm no longer in that place anymore. I can look back and also look forward and feel like, I'm elevated and that has no power over me. And I think there's something powerful about that.
Yeah.
Somebody else's mess hold you in a begrudgingly space or begrudge. Am I saying that right? I always feel like I'm when I'm talking. But I'm not in a very funky space because I'm still why can't I get this in this out? I am not any
get your life together.
Right. I'm still on New York
Are you like drinking champagne right now?
No,
I said it so calmly. Get your life together.
Yes, she did. Very Kim Kardashian.
That was the thing that there. That was like that's my self-awareness, like kicking in. Instead of being frustrated, it's like just get it together.
Now she says I have the ball spot, then I'm really have to be like, okay, we are in an episode of the Meet the Kardashians. But
it's all good, Daryl. This is why we love you. What about you, Tosh? Because we've been friends for a long time, and just even like personally seeing your transformation and how like chill and like zen and stuff you've become, it's like,
I feel like
I love that for you.
I think I'm very self-aware of like when my mood is low or I'm like very high energy or I'm like really have a lot of anxiety or I'm uptight. Like I know I can go up and down, and I'm really good about trying to help myself during that time. I also understand I just need some things to pass because sometimes some things I can't control, And it's hard. I've had to come to the grips that I cannot control what is going on. And so with people or my feelings, and so I just have to let things pass for this wave to ride off. And I I don't know. I think that's just how I go. And I feel like I've had to accept those because, again, the different responsibilities that I have, like I'm not one to pop off on anybody. Instead, that requires a lot of energy, a lot of time. I need that energy for other things. So I will retreat. And, yeah. And then sometimes I will feel like I will share to try to help myself. And then sometimes I'm like, hey, I know everybody's busy. I don't want to try to,
I
bother
know,
people.
yeah.
So it's like I try to help myself and not be a burden, but then also I'm like, Tasha, you have the tools. So it's like you try to manage yourself.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I'm pretty self-aware. Like I think I know when, like, Tasha, you're acting like this, or things are going like this. Like, relax, Tasha. Like, no, you need to move, So, but I think with that, sometimes I can be hard on myself, um, in doing different things. And so I do a lot of self-talk. Um, and I always try to show myself grace. And it doesn't happen all the time. But I feel like I'm a good partner for myself. And I'm still trying to work on ways to help myself. Like when my mood gets too low, and I feel like really down, trying to help myself, encourage myself. And that's why therapy is important. That's why we talk about exercise,
Yes.
both of us, and how we use that, especially as I've gotten older. That is something for a mental
Yep.
Yeah.
relief
Sure
first.
does.
That's first. And then after, like, number 5 is like for exercise and for physical. Now it's really to help myself, to deal with things going on. Medication, I've definitely not been opposed to that as well. Like, I can't afford to be like just so down. Like, I've got to help myself out. So I'm going to try different things to help me. Because I mean, nobody really knows what is really going on inside of you except for you.
Right.
So
And that's yeah.
you better do all you can to help your little self out.
Well, when you hear people say, like, when something unfortunate happens to somebody or they've taken their own life, whatever, it's like, I can't believe they would ever do. I'm like, but literally anybody, I can believe it because you know what's in your own head. And I love how you said, I try to be a good partner to my own self. I think sometimes we focus so much on trying to be a good partner to a significant other, or a good partner to our friends, or good partner for our workspace, that we're not even being good partners to our own selves, because we are exuding every ounce of energy to every other space but to ourselves.
Right.
And we give ourselves the last drop of what it is. And it's just like, then it becomes you're frustrated, you're angry, and then you go off into these deep thoughts and don't let you get down the rabbit hole of social media. Now you're in a whole other spiral, right? So I love that you mentioned, like, being a good partner to yourself. Like, I think that is so important. And when you're a good partner to yourself, you can be a good partner to other people. Like, I can always tell by, like, the tone of a text from Daryl, if something's going on, if something's up, like if he's not like his usual bubbly stuff. I was going to text you today because, or whenever we text yesterday and today, I was like, oh, Daryl's not his usually bubble stuff, but I'll check in with him after this. But you can always tell when somebody has a lot going on. And same for us, Tasha, we be checking in, we be like, girl, if the first title of the text is girl or child, it's either something really good or something bad. Like this.
And Steph will be really good. She'll be like, I had to get off social media. Like, you have to, like, dial it back to help yourself out. Like, you see where certain things that might be good for you are not good for you at this time period. Or like, hey, I didn't need, I've said stuff like, hey, I didn't need to work out today. I chose, like, I really needed to rest. Like, you have to recognize some things about yourself, because we can't be like, yeah, we passed out on the elliptical or in the car and stuff like that. Like, ain't nothing cute about that. Like, we can be good to ourselves or any of the people who we love if we all the way all that bad. Like, who told you to let it get that bad? You know.
And I think those speed bumps that we inquire in our lives are there for reasons. And when you hit one of those bumps, it's not to accelerate, because you don't know how many more are
right
ahead of you. Like, slow you down. I think sometimes we feel like, I hit a speed bump, and I think that's just because that's what the world says, like social media and everything. Oh, you hit a bump, well, don't just keep going. You hit more gas. It's like, no, that speed bump is there for a reason, because you need to slow it down. You need to slow it down.
My tires are through.
I'm just saying, you're gonna be on sitting on bricks because you ain't got no rims. Like you got to figure out what matters, right? And if your car, if you are your vehicle, and you are the car, the driver that gets you to whatever the next destination is, you got to make sure that you're doing those. You're being a smart driver, and when you encounter potholes and speed bumps, act accordingly. It doesn't mean plow through them with the hopes of, it'll be all right because it was all right for so-and-so.
Right. This is no movie. We are not in a movie.
Okay? Right. And it's just that's the moment of self-care. Like, let me check in with myself. Okay, I done hit a couple of speed bumps in the last couple of weeks. What am I? Maybe let me take a step back.
What am I missing? What
am I missing? Like, I thought I was ready. I thought this project was ready to take off, or I thought this relationship was ready to take off, or I thought this friendship, that I was starting to build with this person was in a good space. And then I realized that, hold up, maybe, there's signs or indicators are telling me otherwise. And then maybe I need to like turn the mirror or the looking glass onto myself and see, because no one likes to own it. You want to walk blame first. So maybe let me check in with me, make sure.
But I'm always like, well, what could I have done? Like, I'm a look towards me
first.
Like, and then I'll be like, because it got to be something. I mean, I have contributed to something. We can't just been turned out this crazy.
But then sometimes it's the other person.
Yeah, because we beat ourselves up.
Sometimes the other person is janky. Yeah, and I think
sometimes we beat ourselves up like, it's me. It's something with me. What did I do to cause whatever? And it's like, sometimes it really like, yes, the self-reflection is good. Check in. Let me check my whole little situation. But then you'd be like, nah, it was them.
And this is why having friends who know you, like Stephanie can tell when I'm hungry or if I'm really in a bad mood. If you don't know me, you won't know the difference. She'll be like, this girl is always pissy. Like, what is wrong with her? But Stephanie be like, you need to eat. Let's get like, and it's not like, it's not like I desire to be that way when I'm hungry or when I'm in a bad mood. Do I desire to like project that I'm in a bad mood? But unfortunately, because I am usually a high energy, high like positive, like I'm always like, hey, type of person. When it's the opposite, like if you know me, you can tell what it is. But if you don't know me, you don't know, and you might prejudge or categorize and come off in a certain way where, again, like I didn't mean anything by it or mean no harm, but then you become janky to me, and then I'm thinking, I did something in reality. I just needed a burger. So you just like you just never really, you never want to you want to make sure that your friend circle, after you've done some reflection, check in with your friend circle, see, did I handle that right? So this is what the situation was, just so that you get hopeful non-biased insight into whatever took place, so you're not just beating yourself up.
I think I'm usually like outgoing and excited and stuff, but like sometimes I retreat, right? And it can come off like something's wrong, or I don't know, maybe I've just been in an emotional state, right? Like sometimes I'm either like, I'm really like on a high, or sometimes I just get really, really low because I feel things very deeply. Like, I guess I'm an empath. And so certain things will just take me to another place where I'm just like, I just feel like this deep sadness, right? I don't call it depression. I wouldn't call it that. It's just like this deep sadness of like feeling of so much stuff. And so people might think, oh, something's wrong with you, or are you acting funny, or your things are shit. I'm like, no, I'm just like, in my mind, I'm just processing so much stuff. So it's like, I don't want to talk. And when I say I don't want to talk, people are like, oh, what's wrong? Because I'm a very big communicator. It's my job. But I have to check in with myself. Okay, why did I get that low, right? Like, what caused me to get to that feeling of like, oh, I need to retreat. I need to not talk to anybody. I need to like step away, because usually I can catch it in the middle. But sometimes when you like when you start to spiral, like you're just trying to keep pushing through. And like you said, those speed bumps are there to kind of like pause you. But when you keep going through those speed bumps, like, no, I'm good, or not acknowledging things that are happening, then you get down this the rabbit hole and you're done. And I think nowadays, like being exhausted from lack of self-awareness is not cute anymore, right? Like we're grown. Like people who you have to acknowledge your feelings, you have to acknowledge your actions, you have to acknowledge your part in stuff. And it's not cute to be ignorant about your own self anymore. I feel like at a time I was like, oh, being like flighty and ditzy about, I don't know. But now, like, no, with all these tools and resources, you better know something about yourself.
And I'm just saying, the way I look at my Instagram timeline now is so many people who are dying. Like I'm like, I have not seen this level of death on my Instagram. Like every time I look up, there's like someone else who I've known from being, public events or out and about who's passed away. And, it's been very mum about to why. Then you found out later that it was either suicide or drug abuse. Like, but as we said earlier, but they would never be the type. But then again, I know there was a point in my life when I was suicidal and no one would ever know that I was the type. So you really don't know what's going on with somebody. So having like you said, tapping into the tools to make sure that you're taking care of self is so important. So, I almost feel like we should have a hotline, come up at the
tools and resources.
Those, right. Yeah. For those who
Google
need them. I'm just saying, because it's real out here, especially as people of color. I feel like the intensity of what our parents felt when they were coming up, during the civil rights movement, that we're back under that pressure and that heat again, while still trying to maintain this level of happy, while still be with the idea of being upwardly mobile, right? Because we have all these resources that are available to us, which makes us very different from our parents back in the day. But the height of racism, the height of, the states and legislation trying to like renege on all the laws that were put in place so that we could be our best selves and so that our children's children will have access to information and books and things that we didn't have. Now they're certain areas are trying to flip that. It's almost like you feel like you're in this game of tug of war, if that makes sense. It's like we made 5 steps forward, but now we're being dragged 4 steps back. So yeah, it's a lot for, I think, just people of color and just, men, women, and all of us in many ways. And it affects us differently. So self-care, tapping into those tools. If you're listening to this and you need help, hopefully we'll have something that will play in this episode.
Yeah. Well, and our great grandparents was doing this like on the Underground Railroad, like no shoes, no socks, no lights, no nothing, following the stars. We have no excuse to not like be better and be more cognizant of the things that we're doing, saying, and how we make people feel. Like there's no excuse.
I
feel like that was a moment to be like, namaste.
Amen. As Daryl would say, amen.
Well, I'm glad we were able to have this light conversation. This is like one of our lighter versions, Daryl, of Champagne Dreams. It's like very zen and calm.
And I think that's what makes it fun. Like, right? I think, again, like we talk about having champagne dreams on a beer budget. But when we're doing that and how we do that with our friends and navigate that space with our friends, I think it's important that it makes it feel real or whole to have our friends join us in on the conversations, because people look at our Instagram personas, and I'm sure people look at all 3 of our Instagram personas and they're like, oh wow, they got it, they're doing this or they're doing that, or I wish I could, or I wish, my life looked like. And we have, in our own circle, talked about what it looks like on the gram may not be what it is in real life. And, we all have our. See
how me and Tasha pulled up today? Okay.
We all have our stuff, right? And we also have our dreams and ambitions that have not yet been actualized. And I think that's the other part. Like,
come on now.
Foundation level of what we're working on now, right? And when we fast forward it, and I foresee us, all 3 of us, being in that Oprah level of existence at one point. And when that happens, I think it's important that we have this. So when people look at our story and it's like, no, remember when they were champagne dreaming? Like, now they actually living the champagne life. That didn't come overnight. That came with work.
Tell them, D.
I'm just saying. And checking in with your friends and your therapist. Or I'm just saying, like. Shout out to my therapist if you
want. As Tasha would say, that's the 1, the 2, and the 3.
Okay. Shoot. But I want to, you said this one was light. I want to be able to come back with one that's unlight.
Like,
you want to be on the ratchet?
She said, I'm ready. Oh, you want to be on the ratchet one? We love a ratchet.
Was, later. So,
Okay. Well, we had to ease you in, Tasha. We had to just warm you. We had to lube you up for this one.
Because I'm gonna tell you, the worst thing to do is to go in with no lube.
You know what?
There it is.
That's what you were waiting
for. There it is. All right. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Champagne Dreams. Follow us on social media at Champagne Dream Show. Yeah, that's all we got for you today. Daryl always going to end out with a bang. That's for sure.
Right. That was the serious one.
Make sure you just lube it up. That's lubrication matters in all places and orifices.
It does. In your life.
Your mouth.
And everywhere else,
And everywhere in between.
All right, y'all. Bye. Bye.